Welcome back to this week's video. We're going to fix this vacuum operated Yamaha Petcock and get it back working again. Follow along and I'll show you how. I've got a repair kit, I've got GIL screwdrivers, and I've got time. Alrighty then, let's set the gas tank out the way. Go ahead, very carefully start pulling it apart. Okay, get the smaller screwdriver for this one. We're going to clean all these parts up good. And when I'm done, not only will it work like new, it'll look like new. Pull this off the front here. Take note of the plate position. Alright, the spring washer, notice how it is aligned in there. Then this comes out, look at all the mess in there. There's no wonder this one wasn't functioning. Because I'm going to be vapor blasting this one for appearance, I'm going to put these two screws back into place so that they can get thoroughly cleaned up as well. If you're wondering how all this corrosion got in here, well, this gas tank was rusted a little bit to start with, but a lot of this is just dried up gasoline. That's the number one cause of most of your carburetor corrosion and your fuel system corrosion is dried up gasoline, especially ethanol. Of course, I'm going to treat this just like I would treat a carburetor overhaul. I'm going to clean it out physically. I'm going to vapor blast it. And then I'm going to ultrasonic clean it. Then I'll bring it back over here and clean it out physically again. There is the vacuum diaphragm. Let's see. Down in here. Enormous chunks. Oh well. Same thing here. I'm going to start the screws back into place. Try and get the screen off without damaging it. Normally they slide right off, but this one is wedged down over a little pin in there, so it's kind of a little bit tougher. Again, I'm setting the screws in place so that when I vapor blast it, the screws can be cleaned too. Yep, definitely don't want to start that back running on your motorcycle. Get out a dental pick here and dig this gasket out. Dig this one out of here too. Enormous amounts of crud in this thing. No wonder it wouldn't work. So now we're going to go get it all cleaned up. Then we'll come over here, put it back together. Like I said, first thing I'm going to do is vapor blast. The second thing I'm going to do is ultrasonic. And then I will still come back and clean it up by hand using carburetor cleaner and compressed air. Oh, before I go to the cleaner, I forgot to show you this part. This is the diaphragm block here. It comes off like so. And the diaphragm fits under it. The diaphragm fits one way. This way is always toward the back here. So remember that. And there's also a little vacuum port here. And there is a bronze copper colored spring, plated spring in here. So now we're ready to go clean all this up. Well, since I turned the camera off a while ago, these parts have all been thoroughly cleaned and are ready to go back together. First thing to do is to reassemble the diaphragm. It fits very carefully through this spot. There's a little hole right here that lines up. This little hole in the rubber part lines up with this little hole in the metal part. That is all sitting in there like that. Turn this on its back. Kind of a pain to keep everything lined up here, but corresponding port over here. So make sure you line everything up properly. Okay, then you have the spring that goes on like this. And then your backing plate. Making sure that make sure that the spring goes down in its seat. Once you make sure the spring and the seat are lined up, make sure you get the right size screwdriver. All the screws started before I tighten any of them down. That way you don't damage the plate or the gasket. Run them in. I'm going to go ahead and see it right quick if the diaphragm moves. Okay, we're definitely drawing a vacuum there. So that's good. Alright, on to the next step, which is to replace this gasket on the front. Put it in, line it up. Okay, we have a new O-ring to go around this. Well, I'm kind of ashamed to admit this. I didn't realize on the Yamaha Petcock this wasn't a standard O-ring. And I didn't pay any attention to how it came off. So for now, I'm going to reassemble this one in the fashion that will make it easiest to reassemble. It looks more like a seal than a O-ring. But anyhow, we push it down into place. Make sure you lubricate it well before you do. I just used a drop or two of Vaseline on it. Any suitable grease would work. Just something to make sure it slides in there without getting nicked. Now we'll put the spring washer back on. Screws started back into place. These are tightened down. And verify that you have the full range of movement on your Petcock. All the way to this side is reserve, on, and then all the way to this side is prime. The prime position should allow fuel to flow into the carburetor no matter what. On should only allow fuel to flow into the carburetor when there is vacuum. There have been issues with some carburetor kits. And there is the top gasket, the seals between it and the tank. There have been issues with some carburetor kits that do not turn off fully. Hopefully this isn't one of those. If it is, I'll pull it out and exchange it. Now, last thing is to put the screen back in. Fortunately, it should go in a lot easier than it came out. There we go. And it snaps back into place. And now there we have a fully cleaned and overhauled Petcock assembly for Yamaha SR500. Ready to be reinstalled. And in all honesty, I expect it to work as good as it looks. So that's it for now, y'all. Keep on wrenching, keep riding, stay crazy.